All right, so let me take this opportunity and discuss question number 7. Question number 7 seems to be a very interesting and a very confusing question. Some of you are asking for video help. Weirdo Corporation just paid a dividend of $3 on the stock. The gross rate in dividends is going to be 5% constant indefinitely. Investors require 16% return on the stock for the first 3 years, 14% return for the next 3 years, and then 11% return thereafter. And this is asking what is the stock price today. All right, so you notice that in this case, the dividend discount rate, excuse me, the dividend growth rate actually stabilizes at 5% forever, but the investors' required return is actually changing. All right, it is 16% for the first 3, 14% for the next 3, and 11% return thereafter. Okay, so our analysis here is, all right, changing discount rates. Okay, and we're still going to actually, do the dividend discount model to value the, stock. Okay, so let's see how we can actually make this work. So I'm gonna build a very simple timeline here. Excuse me, and I don't know how many periods I need, but it looks like I need to have at least like the first 3 years, following 3 years, and then a return thereafter. So that's going to be 7. So I'm going to stay on the safe side. I can do 8 or 9. So that is the period, the timeline, and we have dividend per period. So the company just paid $3 per share dividend. Okay, so that's D0. And let's look at the dividend growth, and that's going to be 5% forever. So let me just copy across this 5%. All right. And let's look at the, if that's the case, we can calculate all the future dividends. So that's $3 times 1 plus the growth rate. All right. So 3.15, and I can copy this across. So this will be all the future dividends. Okay. So now let's look at the required rate of return. So that's going to be 16% for 3 years, and then it's going to be 14% for another 3 years. You may ask why this, investors required rate of return changing over time. All right, that is a very good question. Okay, investors required rate of return can change over time for a lot of reasons. All right, and then it's going to be 11% thereafter. All right, so it's going to be 11% for all the other years. Okay, so now the question is, what's the stock price? All right, so let's look at what we can do here. So the first nuance we're dealing with is this is an infinite timeline. So we need to actually apply the Gordon model and cut the timeline. All right, so in order for us to apply the Gordon model, we have to analyze when this growth rate for dividend stabilizes. Actually, it stabilizes from period 1. But then we have also this changing investors' required rate of return, and that rate does not stabilize until period 7. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually very straightforward. Let's actually look at when both rates stabilize. And I'm going to actually apply the Gordon model and to get the result price. All right, so the Gordon model is a forward-looking model. So I'm going to look at D7, and I'm going to divide this by R minus G, okay, because both rates have stabilized at 11 versus 5%. So I can apply the Gordon model here. So that is 70.36, all right? And so I get the resale price for year 6. Okay, so I'm going to look at the cash flow per period. All right, so this myopic investor is now going to only invest in the stock for 6 years, and the investor is going to sell the stock, all right, for $70.36 at the, so this is going to be the resale price plus this dividend. All right, and I'm going to copy to the left. So we have this, with different cash flows, and now we just need to get the present value of each cash flow, right? So now this is where we have to be very careful because the discount rates actually change over time, All right, so I'm going to look at the first three. All right, these are actually in the first 3 years, and the discount rate does not change. So I'm going to do this divided by 1 plus the 16% raised to the power of 1. So this is this is the present value for the first cash flow, and I can only copy across to period 3. Okay, so now I need to look at this cash flow here. All right, so I'm going to do present value of the cash flow in year 4, and I'm going to do a bunch of things, and I'm going to get the answer. And the present value of the cash flow in year 5, right? I'm going to do this separately because the discount rates are changing over time. Present value of the cash flow in year 6, all right? So these are the present value of the first 3 cash flows. So I'm going to look at this number here now. I'm going to actually do the discounting step by step. This is the so-called stepwise discounting. So notice that this is actually the cash flow in year 4, and the corresponding discount rate is actually 14%. So first, I'm going to discount this at 14% for one period. Okay, so if I do that, I'm going to actually move the cash flow from period 4 to period 3. Okay, so that's $3.19. All right, so now I'm going to discount this at 16% for 3 periods. Okay, and why 16%? Well, the discount rate in the first 3 periods, these are 16%. And why 3 periods? Because after I discount this, 3.64, by one period, I'm at the end of year 3, and now I need to discount 3 periods to get back to period 0. All right, so that is the present value of the cash flow in year 4. All right, so now I'm going to look at the present value of the cash flow in year 5. So I'm going to do the same thing. All right, so that is the cash flow, and I'm going to discount this at 14% for 2 periods now, because I'm going from period 5 to period 3, so that is 2.94, and then I'm going to discount this at 16% for 3 periods, okay? So again, the reason is this 2.94 is actually standing at the end of year 3. It has a discount rate of 16%, all right? So that is the present value. So let me just highlight this in bold red so that these are the present values of the first 3 cash flows. This is the present value of the cash flow in year 4. This is the present value of the cash flow in year 5. So now I'm just going to get the present value of the cash flow in year 6. All right, so I'm going to take this number and I'm going to discount this at 1 plus 14% raised to the power of. Take a guess how many periods we need to discount. Well, we need to actually go from period 6 to period 3. So yes, we need to discount this for 3 periods. And once I have that, I'm going to further discount this. All right, so I lost my timeline here. So this is at the end of year 3. I need to bring this back to period 0. So I'm going to discount this at 16% for 3 periods. All right, so that is the cash flow, present value of the cash flow in year 6. All right, so present value of the cash flows, present value of all cash flows. All right, so I'm just going to do the summation. So that's going to be this number here, plus this, plus this, plus this, and these, cash flows, and it's 43.49, which is 43.50. All right, so you see that this is a very good example actually, because we're talking about stepwise discounting. All right, you can get all the you can get all the dividends. All right, but then you would have to cut the timeline, and you can actually apply the Gordon model because these 2 rates actually have stabilized. So you can cut the timeline, and now you're just talking about the present value of all the cash flows here. And these cash flows, they're having different discount rates. So in order for you to move all these cash flows to period 0, you would have to make stops. There's no direct flight from period 6 to period 0, so you would have to fly to period 3 and then back to period 0. Okay, and the same for the cash flows in years 4 and 5. But for the cash flows in years 1 to 3, yes, there are direct flights. You can just discount them at a 16%. All right, so I hope this is useful.